What's going on, guys? Josh here from Momentum Productions, and today I have the DJI Ronin S, and a lot of you have been DMing me on Instagram and on YouTube asking me what the best settings are to get the smoothest footage with your DJI Ronin S gimbal. So that's what this video is all about. Let's get started. First off, I want to talk about the 3 different axes that are on your DJI Ronin S. For those of you who just got this gimbal, it may be a little bit confusing at first, but you'll get the hang of it shortly. So I'm going to turn off my Ronin S here. And first we're going to talk about all of the axes. So we have the pan axis right here, that's that motion. So that's panning. We have roll, and we have pitch or tilt. So these are the types of adjustments we are going to be working within the app today. If you don't have the Ronin S app, go ahead and download it now before you can make any of these adjustments. Once your gimbal is turned on, open up the app and connect to your gimbal. On the app's home screen, we have 4 different options: configuration, create, status, and about. We want to work with configuration. Next, enter motor parameters. Now we can see an option called auto tune. Auto tune allows the motors to apply just enough torque to operate the gimbal smoothly using your camera setup. So if you're using different cameras and different lenses, definitely use auto tune as part of your configuration process. We have 3 different options when using auto tune. We have low, medium, and high. This will allow you to choose whether or not you want the motors to automatically have more torque, medium torque, or low torque. So for example, if you're using a mirrorless setup like my Sony a7S with a 14mm Rokinon lens, I think a light auto tune would be just enough. Once you've selected low, medium, or high, press on auto tune. You're gonna right away hear the motors kick in and start doing some weird noises. Don't worry, this is absolutely normal, just let it do its thing. Great, now that that's finished, let's dive deeper into the motor settings. Click on the back arrow button, then tap on Smooth Track. Smooth Track is an algorithm developed by DJI which makes sure that all of your movements are smooth. However, there are fine-tuned adjustments that we need to make your movements even smoother and to make your overall experience with the Ronin S a lot better. Now that we're into the Smooth Track settings, we have multiple different options here. We have Enable Smooth Track, Enable Push Pan, Speed, Deadband, and Sensitivity. First, I do suggest that you turn on Smooth Track on all of these options: pan, tilt, and roll. This allows the DJI algorithm to kick in and to make sure that your movements are extra smooth. So make sure Smooth Track is enabled on all of those options. Next, what is push pan? Well, remember how I told you that the pan axis is this axis right here? Well, if you notice, if I push the axis manually by hand, the motor doesn't want to budge, it wants to recenter. If I press on push pan, it gives me the option to actually manually adjust the motor by hand. So as I position it, it will stay in that position without recentering. If I were you, I would leave all of the push options turned on in every single axis. So pan, tilt, and roll. Right under that, we have speed, deadband, and sensitivity. You'll notice that under each option, we have presets. We can manually adjust these presets, or if you want to get really customized here, you can enter your own number, ranging from 1 all the way up to 100. Let's talk about each of these settings. Speed is responsible to how fast you want your gimbal to move with your movement. Deadband is responsible for allowing the gimbal to kick in at a certain amount of degrees when you turn the gimbal. So for example, if I turn the gimbal, let's say 10 or 15 degrees, that's when the motor is actually going to kick in and adjust me with that pan. So as you notice, there's always lag with the gimbal whenever I make a pan. That's because it needs me to turn a certain amount of degrees before the motor kicks in and makes that movement. And then we have sensitivity. How sensitive do you want the motors to be to your movement? So do you want it to detect movement very easily or not as easily? So after using the Ronin S for months and months and on many shoots, I found out that the best settings are as follows. For the pan section, it would be speed at medium, deadband at low, and sensitivity at medium. When it comes down to tilt, speed at low, deadband at low, sensitivity at medium. And let me tell you why. With the pan, I always like to be medium speed. So as you can see, it's very nice and smooth and it feels fluid. It feels natural. As I pan, We have a slight delayed response with the gimbal's pan, but this allows us to get the smoothest shots. When it comes down to deadband, again, it just feels natural. I like having that low setting, and I'm constantly looking at my phone here to make sure I'm giving you guys the right info. But those two settings, very important. And sensitivity, how sensitive do we want the motors to behave? Medium. It feels right. It feels natural. And for those of you who are beginning filmmakers, or for those of you who are just getting into gimbals, this may seem a little bit difficult to understand, but you have to be using the gimbal constantly to understand the meaning behind these numbers and the meaning behind these different categories and presets. When we go to tilt, we have speed at low, deadband at low, and sensitivity at medium. I'm very accurate with my tilts, so I want most of my shots that involve tilts to be nice and smooth. Rarely do I quickly go up and down. I like to have smooth cinematic movements. Luckily on the Ronin S, we have 3 customizable presets. We have modes 1, 2, and 3. So on each different mode, we can have different settings applied to each axis. So feel free to mess around with that option. Now I want to show you what happens when we customize these presets. So we're not going to be using low, medium, or high anymore. We're actually going to be using numbers going from 0 to 100. So right now, I'm going to click on speed and we can scroll around. You can see the different presets, but I pressed on customize. And if we go down to, let's say, 8, this is very slow. So you can notice that the pan is not really keeping up with my movements. I'm turning, but the gimbal is barely panning. So in my opinion, I would never go lower than 25 on any of these options. 8 is very, very slow. And if we go up to, let's say, 81, you can see that the pan is starting to kick in a little bit more. But because we didn't adjust the deadband or the sensitivity, it's probably not gonna seem that much of a difference to you watching this on YouTube. But when you hold the gimbal, you can actually feel the motors kick in and out, and you'll definitely feel a difference. So let's bring that back down to medium. Let's go to deadband, and I'm gonna drop the deadband all the way down to 5. And now you can see that the gimbal needs me to turn a lot less. It will immediately kick in and turn with me. I don't have to turn the gimbal's handle to a certain degree before the motors kick in. So that's exactly what deadband does. And I like to keep that at a medium preset, or sometimes, depending on what I'm shooting, you can refer to the earlier parts of this video. Those are my actual settings, best settings with the Ronin S. So I actually like to keep that between low and medium. If we go to tilt, same thing, guys. Speed, deadband, exactly the same. And you know what? Let's mess around with the sensitivity as well. Let's bring that up to 100. So now it's gonna really detect motion, and it's gonna try and kick in a lot sooner. So I don't recommend keeping it up that high. I think around 35 to 50 if you want to manually customize these options. That's where your ballpark should be, between 35 and 50. If you want to learn how to use vortex mode or POV mode on the DJI Ronin S, I have a tutorial for you. Watch this right here. I also have a balancing tutorial, so it's very important to balance this gimbal properly in order for it to work properly. And people don't realize that, but balance is everything. If you don't have balance in your gimbal, balance in life, nothing is gonna work. So check out this video right here where I show you exactly how to properly balance the DJI Ronin S. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.